Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching this. Today on Obscure Britain, we are in Dungeness. Dungeness is home to the sound mirrors. Welcome back to another Obscure Britain video. Today we are in the very unusual place called Dungeness. Dungeness is located on the Kent coast and is often referred to as England's only desert. This is due to the landscape and the rainfall per year. Unfortunately, it is not officially a desert though, due to getting too much rainfall yearly. Dungeness is also England's closest point to France, and on a clear day, you can see France from the coast. It has the largest amount of shingle in Europe, 1,600 hectares of it. And as you can see in this video, I was a big fan of walking on it, and I sincerely hope you can hear the sarcasm in my voice there. Although it has a lot of houses, it is deathly quiet when walking around. It's so windy and cold. In the public places or the points of interest, it is much busier, but this footage was all recorded on a Saturday, and for a weekend, this did not feel busy at all. Dungeness has a lot of interesting things to see. One main attraction that drew my attention was the sound mirrors. The sound mirrors were created to be used as a military defence in World War I. They are now well looked after by the RSPB, and on certain dates throughout the year, they open the mirrors island up to the public. The mirrors were slowly but surely being ruined by the public, so the RSPB raised enough money to create a small island solely for their preservation. The walk to reach them is across 20 minutes of shingle, which, if you do not realise this beforehand, you will bring basic trainers and have a really bad time, just like I did. But honestly, it is worth it, so do remember to bring your walking shoes. And if you like your creepy crawlies, then this is a perfect place to find moths, bees, beetles and spiders. And some are found nowhere else in Britain. Once you reach the island, there is a very thin metal bridge which makes accessibility for pushchairs and mobility scooters impossible, which is a major downfall to people going to see these mirrors, and I do hope one day they will put something in that makes it accessible to all. There are 3 acoustic mirrors here in total, 3 different types, which is brilliant as you can see how they developed over time. Another reason to go and visit when the RSPB are hosting open days is that you will be able to listen to an hour-long informational talk by a representative who knows everything there is to know about the mirrors and their purpose in history. They also passed around photographs for everyone there to look at, which you would not be able to see otherwise.
And of course you've got the Zeppelins from 1915 onwards. You've got the Zeppelins beginning to raid the east coast of England. The Zeppelin was a big outer skin containing gas bags. The gas bags were actually made from the stomach and intestines of cows, stitched together, glued together to make the gas bags in which they pumped hydrogen, highly flammable, but of course being lighter than air, the airship could carry substantial loads. They moved around at about 60 miles an hour, made a lot of noise, 4 big Maybach engines, big propellers, loads of gearing, and say chugging along at 60 knots. Ideal target for try and listen for. But of course up there in the dark is a really big place, and our fighters were not really having much luck in locating Zeppelins at night, so the race was on to find a better way of detecting exactly where they were. This fell to a guy called Thomas Mather, Professor Thomas Mather, and his assistant John Logan at the City and Guilds Institute in Knightsbridge, and they had the idea that if you had a spherical mirror, you could perhaps concentrate the sound. And that's exactly what they did. Then they decided to go for a full-scale experiment, and so they carved a much larger, a 16-foot mirror in a chalk cliff not very far from here, at a place called Binbury Manor, which was outside Detling, and Detling's near Maidstone. There's a former there that they are gradually rotating and cutting away the chalk until they've got the surface that they want, and then they covered it with a type of cement coating to get a good reflection. And they found that they could hear traffic moving as far away as Southend, and trains and vehicles very clearly moving on the Isle of Sheppey. So the idea was this is going to work okay. What happens later is this becomes deeper, like the 30-foot mirror over there. It becomes deeper and it actually becomes a paraboloid. And the deeper you make it, the more accurate it becomes. An unfortunate would stand out on this bench in all weathers with, in his ears, he would have a stethoscope. And the stethoscope goes through the whole history of this kind of acoustics. So to build bigger mirrors, they had a look around. Originally they were going to build this wall at Sand Bay, and then for various reasons they decided to come down here. And when they came here, this was just a huge plain of shingle. The water wasn't there, the shingle went straight across, and you can see the level of it the other side. That's where the shingle was, and coming back this side, that's why these walls were built. They were built to hold back the shingle. That was at that height all the way around, and explains why if you walk up that staircase you end up 3.5 feet above the ground level. And similarly, why if you look at the 30-foot mirror, there's steps going down into the control room underneath, but that starts off here because the shingle level has been dropped by all the mining of shingle over the years since the Second World War. They've taken out billions of cubic metres of shingle from this area. And it got to the point where they were actually destroying the end of the mirror up there, and the 30-foot mirror was beginning to lean over. They managed to intervene and go, right, that's where it stops in this area, and we want some money from you to put this on an island, so we want to build a bridge there and preserve them so we don't have the spray can philosophers coming over too regularly. It would have been a problem. They did get some grants from Europe to do all this work as well, which you wouldn't get anymore. But yeah, that's how it got preserved.
Dungeness is also home to a nature reserve, also looked after by the RSPB. Once you have seen the sound mirrors, a 30-minute walk or a 5-minute drive will take you to the main part of Dungeness Beach. Upon this beach, you will find all of the main landmarks of Dungeness, including the Pilot Inn, a restaurant and bar known for its fish and chips. The restaurant is well known as the place to go for food whilst you're here, but I would argue it's more for their battered brie because it was absolutely unreal. Seriously, it was so good. You can then decide to go for another walk across the shingle beach to discover the beautiful beach houses and iconic beached boats. The cottages/converted train carriage homes are notable buildings to see whilst you visit Dungeness. They are unusual, beautiful, and situated on their own, which therefore makes them stand out even more. There is one home that I was most interested in, and upon research I found that this home, called North Vat, is actually an Airbnb and has previously been entered into competitions for Best Home of the Year in England. And for a mere £300 a night, you can stay here with up to 5 of your friends or family members. You can also buy one of these homes for around £600,000 on average. These would also currently need to be cash purchases, as no mortgage lenders are currently willing to lend money for these. I wonder why. When walking around Dungeness, I consistently felt like it wasn't real. It really did feel that I was on a film set or in a music video. It felt like the place had been created, and it was definitely one of the most weirdly beautiful places I have ever seen. Dungeness has been used numerous times in media. It has been featured in music videos for the Lighthouse Family, Nicki Minaj, The Prodigy, Nothing But Thieves, and others. It has also been used in films and TV shows too. There really is no other landscape in England quite like it, so I totally understand why it draws those with creative visions. Dungeness also has 2 lighthouses. One of the lighthouses is no longer in use, but the black and white lighthouse is still in use as the power station obscures the light for ships. The old lighthouse, however, can be visited by the public as a piece of history. The power station in Dungeness was the first advanced gas-cooled reactor to be constructed in the UK. It gave power to the national grid for 40 years before it ceased generation at the end of 2006. The large power station is actually split up into 2 power stations, one called Dungeness A and one called Dungeness B. Dungeness A stopped producing power in 2006 and was defueled in 2012, and the demolition of parts of the building began in 2015. Dungeness B is currently being defueled after technical issues were discovered by current owners EDF in 2021. There's been speculation whether or not they will demolish the power station, but it doesn't look like they plan to anytime soon. And as you drive into Dungeness, it is the first thing you see as a visible landmark, so I do doubt that they will get rid of it anytime soon. There was also a very cool steam-powered train, but I unfortunately didn't have the time to travel upon it, so we may have to come back to see that. If you were to walk the entirety of Dungeness Beach, you'd be looking about 4.9 miles, which would take about 3 hours. A place that unfortunately I didn't have time to visit was the nature reserve in Dungeness, and that is definitely somewhere that I will have to go back and look at. Dungeness, if you don't own a car, is actually quite difficult to get to. Although not impossible, some methods of public transport only run every hour. If you get the chance, please do visit Dungeness. It is such a weird and wonderful place, and I wholeheartedly recommend a visit. A special shout out to my YouTube channel members Russ and Eddie, and my Patreon members Lawrence, Chris, Ben, Nathan, Louise, Geraldine and Chelsea, and introducing our new members Russ and Heart of a Daedra. Thank you all for your constant, kind support. Thank you for keeping this series going. For now, that is all from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will hopefully see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.